Hello. This appears to possibly be working. So we will see. Hi, everyone, and by everyone I mean the one person watching. Sorry. Turning off the audio coming from the stream, because that would be incredibly annoying. Okay, cool. How am I on audio? I have some game music playing in the background. I don't know how loud it is versus how loud I am. And yes, it's Shadowgate, by the way, which is kind of cool. Just going by my meters, I'm a little bit low, so I'm going to turn myself up a little bit here. And we'll just go with that for the time being. Huh, okay. Can this go up anymore? Nope, okay. Alright. Alright, so I'm just gonna assume that this is somewhat audible. So yeah, hi. I guess, I don't know, I guess all the cool kids are streaming things, so I thought it would be interesting to do rather than just making little kind of static videos. So, yeah, I just am gonna be doing some kind of electronics bench fiddling and thought it might be interesting to stream it up. So, spent the past hour and a half trying to get OBS working, at least in some sort of way that seems approximately correct. And I've also got a bench cam over here below me, which you can see up here over my shoulder. And that's running on some fairly sketchy freeware webcam stuff that has this big old logo kind of sticking. I don't know where my finger is. Anyway, it's down at the bottom, but they're trying to get me to pay for it. I might if it keeps working. Although it does not work as a native video capture device, which does not really encourage me to want to pay them for it, but I don't know. I know stuff is weird with El Capitan being what it is with drivers and everything, so. Yeah, so I guess, we'll just get into it. So the thing I was thinking about fiddling with today, is this little doodad, on the bench. This is a little, well, it's completely useless. It's a little electrical contraption that is inspired by another YouTuber, a really good YouTuber, called Big Clive. His website is bigclive.com. His YouTube channel's also Big Clive. He's really easy to find. And he does all sorts of interesting teardowns and electronics projects and lots of really neat stuff. And one of the projects that he built is this thing that he calls a Nixie stick. Nixie lights, certain watches and displays are super popular, and they're, more or less gas discharge displays, which are very similar to technology used in neon, either neon lamps, neon bulbs. And neon bulbs are an interesting sort of critter. You don't really see them in things that much anymore. This is one of them. If the phone will focus on it, it may be a bit too close for it there. I'll try moving this out of the way. It's kind of small. But neon bulbs here, you can see this is just a little glass envelope, little leg sticking out. Looks like a small little, either a small light bulb or a big LED. And they were very common, mostly for indicators, because they don't require a particularly large amount of current to run. They can just run for a long time. The only one of these you have probably seen lately is if you have a power strip with a little orangey bulb that flickers on the power switch, that's more than likely a neon. It is a neon. they're kind of they've fallen out of use just because LEDs are sort of everywhere now. But they are still around, and you can get them, and they're kind of interesting. And they have some very interesting properties. Since they are a gas discharge device, they work. So you have an envelope, a little glass envelope filled up with some manner of gas and little electrodes inside of it, and you run voltage through it. And it's sort of interesting. The voltage going through it rapidly increases until you hit what I think they call the strike point or the ignition point. It's very similar for like fluorescent light bulbs. They take a tremendous amount of voltage to start, but then once they start, the voltage flowing through them drops off very strongly. And it's the same in these little guys. They go up to something around 100 or so volts going through this until it strikes, and then the voltage passing drops very strongly down into like 40 or 50 volts, and it holds there until that voltage drops down lower, somewhere, I don't know, depending on the bulb, I think it's somewhere in the 30s or 40s. And what's kind of interesting about this, that gives it sort of a hysteresis kind of effect. It has a state, in a sense. Once it is ignited, it stays in the ignition state for a certain amount of voltage drop until it drops further. And what's kind of neat about that is that storage lets you do things like build oscillators. You can actually build digital logic around neon tubes. That is a actual logic. I wouldn't know if I'd necessarily call it a family, but logic devices have been built around it, just as they have been built around transistors and diodes and those sort of things. So what this little device is that was Clive's project that I've sort of dolled up here is a sort of oscillator built up, and this is unplugged. I have a little glass base over it because in operation this would all be electrically hot at wall temperature. And the way this works is, I guess it might be sort of easy to kind of draw it out here, and at this point I'm completely ripping off Big Clive and his very well done descriptions of things. So you have AC wall current coming in, live line and a neutral line at what in the States here is at 120 volts AC. And that comes in, there's a resistor put in the way and that's actually on, I guess it doesn't particularly matter since I don't have a polarized plug here. It would probably be on the hot line, but that's all right. And then you have a capacitor put across here. I'm trying to remember my electrical symbols. I'm sure I'm going to mess at least one of them up. And so, actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure that for purposes of the diagram that the resistor should be on the live line. So current comes through here, flows through this resistor. I guess actually it doesn't matter at all since capacitors aren't directional. So this capacitor starts to charge, right? Since that's what capacitors do. They store voltage, or store energy, I should say. Then we have another resistor here, another leg coming off of here with a diode. I'm a horrible person. I can't remember the symbol for diode, so I'm going to draw it kind of crudely here. Go right there. And then we've got a bunch of our little neon lamps. And the way he does them out, they're kind of in a stick, kind of in a linear form. So we just have our little bulb going across, and you can have, any number of these little guys. I have 20 something in mine. So the way this essentially works is power comes through here, it charges up this capacitor, right? At some point there's a diode in here to keep current from flowing back through and making a dead short. The voltage going through these little lamps here increases and increases and increases up until it gets up to that strike point. That's somewhere around 100 volts or so, although it varies according to a number of different things. At which point, the one of the bulbs strikes and starts to glow, and the resistance through it drops off very suddenly, and this capacitor essentially discharges through this, right? And so it glows, and that's great. At some randomly later point, then, that voltage through there will drop to the point that it can go off and turn off and stop conducting. The resistance goes back up again and things start over. Now, what's sort of interesting about this is that since every bulb is slightly different and has slightly different requirements for the voltage required to make it strike, this is a very random sort of thing. So that capacitor, constantly discharging, is going to get dumped through one of these neons in a sort of random sense. And what's sort of odd is they vary from bulb to bulb. They vary according to the amount of light in the room because they have a somewhat photosensitive effect, which is kind of strange. But it's very interesting, and it's a sort of, in fact it is, it's naturally occurring noise. It's chaos, randomness, whatever you want to call it. So I decided this would be a fun thing to build, and I built mine instead of in stick form. I made mine in a ring. I got, what I really wanted for this is to have it look sort of like a turn-of-the-century quack medicine or turn-of-the-century appliance of some sort. So it has this wooden base, which I've lacquered black. I got some, actually have the spool of it back here somewhere. I got some, I want to say this is 8-gauge bare copper from, just the home store. This is used for, grounding electrical boxes and that sort of thing. It's nice and beefy, but it's still fairly workable, at least for a little while. Copper does work hard, and you bend it a few times and it stops bending, which is kind of neat. And so that is sort of bent around into two semicircles that are then epoxied down into this base. I don't know how well you can see that, still learning the focus range of this. And then the components that I just drew up are also attached to that base, and I got really big, beefy 2-watt resistors strictly for the look. I just kind of think they look cool and old-fashioned-y. So we have the one resistor coming in. This one's primarily to limit the flow of current through the device, right, that's taken from the wall. The second one is to limit the amount of current that goes through when the capacitor discharges, because left to its own devices, it would dump all the current all at once, and these little neon bulbs have sort of a maximum kind of inrush current that they can deal with, or else they break fairly quickly. And then we have this diode to keep it from backflowing and shorting. I found these fairly interesting little brass thumb screws that I'm using. I cut off two brass screws. Let me get in the camera, there we go. I cut off the heads from two brass screws to make sort of make two posts to attach the cable coming in. The wire is wrapped around here to secure it. I'm going to disconnect this here just so I can handle it a little more easily. Like so. And so yeah, these are these little brass, focus please, little brass knurled thumb screws that I thought looked neat. More on that later. And I also found, actually, also in the home store, Home Depot in this case, some cloth-wrapped wire, although it is fake cloth-wrapped wire, because as you can see, it's pretty standard white plastic lamp cord, because cloth-wrapped wire, the real stuff, is horrifically dangerous and scary. And I'm going to be doing a little something to this here in a minute to improve it. But then, yeah, the neons themselves are just soldered in between. They go between the two copper rings. Maybe would a black background be better to see this? Let's see. Would that help? That's not much better. Maybe a little bit. Okay. So yeah, two rings going around. The neons, their legs are bent to connect sort of between them. Maybe that helps. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. And so they just go around. There's, I think, 23 of these. And the legs are just individually soldered. These are all soldered in parallel. So they're just in one big chain, sort of head to toe. Actually, this little copper bit right here is a bit too long. I think I might trim that. If I can find my big diagonal cutters here somewhere. There we go. Kind of trim this off for a bit more symmetry. That would be nice. There, I suppose. That looks pretty good. We'll go with that. So if I plug this thing in, I'll just go ahead and reattach the leads here for a moment. The thing is, as I say, very chaotic and very sensitive to the lighting environment that it is in. So what it actually does is a bit random. It's somewhat dimish in here. It's the sun is setting. I do have an overhead light on. All right, so that's connected well enough. And since when this is operating, all of this is at wall potential. I have this little glass dome that goes over the top of it, although currently the way it is, it doesn't quite close all the way, and this is actually probably something I'm going to be fiddling with tonight to make this a little more likely for the glass dome to go over. But if I go and plug this in, I'm going to center this up here so that we can kind of see it neatly. And then if I reach under the table here and plug it in, hopefully I have a spare socket. Have to unplug something else. There we go. Okay. So if we plug that in, right. So I might need to. Let's see. Most of the action is on this other side. Let me turn it around. And actually, as I moved it, it sort of changes. But yeah, as you can see here, I have a sort of low frame rate preview here, so it's a little hard to see exactly how this is working, but it looks like you can see some blinking. I'm going to turn the overhead light off, try and dim things down a little bit. Let's try closing the blinds for a second and see what that does. No, still about the same amount of activity. It seems to like a certain amount of darkness, but not pitch blackness, which is sort of strange. So yeah, these things respond very interestingly. And actually, when I first built it, it's a little odd in that only a few of the lights at the end actually lit. And then as I left it plugged in, it sort of warmed up to the idea of blinking more. So it's a very, like I said, very strange, chaotic little critter. And in fact, as I change it and light moves around it, it actually changes the little bulbs that ignite. So that's fun. That's rather interesting. So let's unplug this just for now. Handful of other interesting notes on this. Soldering this together was a little bit of a bear. For another reason that all I have currently in my bench is my very trusty Heiko FX 888D, which I love. It's a fantastic iron for electronics and hobby work. But when you are trying to solder to, for example, 8 gauge copper, copper being the beautiful heat sink that it is, it takes forever to heat up. So I was literally having to hold the iron on the copper for 30 seconds or so to flow enough heat into it to get the solder to melt. And then, of course, at that point, the solder would melt almost everywhere, so I could do a bunch of them all at once. I don't think the bulbs themselves were soaking that much heat. I'm sure they did some, but probably a beefier iron or possibly even a torch would have been a better choice to actually get that to solder. But, I managed. It came out reasonably well, and the copper is taking on sort of a nice patina, which is kind of neat. I'm a little bit worried about galvanic corrosion since I have, tin and lead solder on copper. I don't know if that will... I would presume that would corrode at some point, but considering... I don't know. I mean, there's not necessarily some electrical path going between them to ground out the galvanic current, but I don't know. It will be interesting to see what this does. Oh, hey, yes, there is a chat. Indeed. For a second, I thought you meant cat, because my cat is here, and he has yet to jump up on the computer yet, but I have no doubt that I'll be fighting him off of that at some point. Cool. So what's left to do on this? Well, mostly I need to get the little glass dome to fit on it a bit better, because, I don't want to electrocute anyone who happens to come upon it and say, ooh, look, blinky thing, because, 110 volts across the finger is not super fun. Another thing I think I want to do, just in the interest of, contributing to the period look of this, what I did to attach the line cord, I'm just disconnecting it here, to attach the line cord to the little brass thumb screws, I looked it around and soldered it, although this is relatively beefy. I mean, it's lamp cord, so it's on the order of, I don't know what that is, I mean, maybe 16 gauge, 14 gauge, something like that. It's fairly beefy. And again, owing to my small soldering iron, it took a little while, and I don't know how well you can see it, but it kind of melted the insulation a bit more than I would like. And I put some heat shrink on it to keep the cloth wrapping. I didn't want to call it cloth insulation because it's not. And that also contributes it, since heat shrink is pretty not flexible, it kind of keeps it from bending around. I put this little notch here in the wooden base to try and allow a little place for the cable to go, but it's not quite enough. So first off, what I want to do is cut this off, re-terminate it, and I think what I'm just going to do is strip a large amount of this off and loop it around, curl it, make kind of a, not quite a linesman's splice, but sort of, and then a small little bit of heat shrink around it to secure the end so it won't fray loose. And then maybe do a little more notching in the little baseplate guy to try and make that fit a little better. So I guess I will see what I can do. Yeah, modding the dome is a little bit outside of the scope, unfortunately, because I'd have to either torch it or, I don't know, maybe use a diamond cutter of some sort, neither of which things I have here. And really, this is not optimal. This is a cookie jar that I found at Michael's, and it's very thick glass. I mean, really, I would like to have, something more akin to the sort of domes that are over things like, not grandfather clocks, but the little miniature clocks that you can get. So there was, I had to do a lot of sanding on this little wooden base to get it to sort of fit in, and it does reasonably well when the wire's not there. You can sort of, it fits on, rather nicely. There just needs to be a bit more room for the cable to make the bend. If I had been smart, what I probably should have done was tried to mill a little slot out of the bottom for the cable to go, and then drill a hole straight through, perpendicular wise, so it could pop up through the base. If I do another one, I may do it that way, but I think I'm a little committed to the way I did / screwed it up already. So, yeah, so there's that. And, God, having the chat up is super weird because then I see myself way out of time. Is there some way, can I make the chat embiggened? Can I do that? Can I just have the chat? That would be super. Nah, I guess I can't just have the chat. Oh well. What else? Cool. So then, yeah, other stuff I might work on. I don't know if I'll do it tonight, but other projects that are in work are, of course, my Commodore 64 Bluetooth cartridge, which I haven't fiddled with in a while, just out of abject frustration. Yeah, mostly. So I wired this thing up by hand, and my by hand point-to-point wiring skills are not superb. It started out booting the Commodore very nicely, and now it does not anymore, which means one of these, or possibly more than one, of these little connections is busted. And that's super annoying. It's actually even, you can click it and it'll say pop out chat. I would like to do that. Let's do that. Can I do that? Say something. I can hide chat. 3 dots near the smiley to add smileys. Ah, magnificent. That is perfect. Ah, so good. Okay, cool. Let me, I have a lot of windows open. Let's get rid of most of those. Cool. All right. Excellent. That is so much better. Thank you. So yeah. So this thing, I desperately wanted to get this working. Hello, Ham has ham. Ham does have ham. That's tautological. I like it. I really want to get this working. This is a super cool. At least I think it's super cool. I don't know if anybody else necessarily would, but something about the idea. And I guess just for background on this thing, I'm not quite sure who I've talked about it. So the whole idea of this is I love my Commodore 64. It's actually, if I move my laptop camera down a little bit, it's literally right here in front of me, along with my little studio monitor here on the bench for testing. It's a great machine, love it to death, second computer I ever used, and I thought it would just be ridiculously hilarious if I set it up, or I could use it as a Bluetooth keyboard, to use it with my laptop, to use it with my phone, whatever. And other people on the internet have done that. That's not a new project. But the difference is all the people that I've seen do that, do Commodore keyboards or even other machines, is they will get a beater machine and they will gut it and they will put in an Arduino or a Pi or whatever, and they'll just use the key switches just as a raw switch matrix and wire them up to whatever new controller they want to use. And, I mean, okay, that's a keyboard that's in the body of a Commodore, but it's not really a Commodore keyboard. I mean, there's a whole computer in here. It's a computer. It could do that. So what I thought about is the fact that Commodores can take cartridges, because they were big for games. There's actually a dedicated Commodore 64 games console called Commodore 64 GS, and the Commodore, was it the GS? I may be wrong. G something. Anyway, and then it was the 64 Max in Japan. And so it has the ability to make a cartridge, load a game or any other software, really, off of a ROM that's on the cartridge. But what's really interesting is the cartridge also gets access to the entire system bus of the machine. So not only can you put code in there, but you can put hardware, and a lot of devices did this. They would be, they'd put in some cases, a whole new CPU. You could do memory expansion, you could do new CPUs, you could do modems. One popular one was to add a new serial port. So what I thought was you can put the hardware, necessary to do Bluetooth stuff, and the software necessary to tell that hardware how to do the Bluetooth stuff, and put it on one cart and just throw it in the machine. That way you wouldn't have to load software off of disk. You wouldn't have to fiddle with hooking something up to the serial port that's already on the Commodore, which is kind of terrible anyway. So the whole thing's built around a Adafruit Blue Friend LE, which is a really lovely little, as I drop it, really lovely little Bluetooth module. It's using some manner of little, Bluetooth controller thing, which is its own little CPU. And it breaks it out into, breadboard-sized pins that you can work with. But Lady Ada and company did their own firmware for this thing. So it's super flexible. You can configure this to work as a Bluetooth serial connection, so you can use it to pipe data from one place to another. You can use it as a Bluetooth human interface device, which is what I want it for. It can be a keyboard, a mouse, a joystick. I think that's all. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do with this, and it commands over just a plain old serial port. Am I Jewish? No, I'm actually not Jewish, although there is a significant amount of Slovakian Jewish on my mother's side of the family. So interesting that you point that out, ham person. So the whole idea was, okay, this thing is doing all the Bluetoothy stuff, and okay, it talks to a serial port. Well, now what? Well, the Commodore has a serial port. Oops, wrong screen, sorry. The Commodore has a serial port of sorts, but it sucks. It's not, it's software only. It's sort of a bit banged software emulation serial port because they were trying desperately to make the Commodores cheaper. And so it can only tap out at about, 1200 baud, which this little guy only does 9600 baud, which is slowish, but for typing it's fine. And yeah, so gotta get a decent serial port, which is the entire point of kind of the biggest chip on this thing. This little guy right here let me get that out of the way of my picture-in-picture head. There it is. So this one's by Cinertech, although Moss Semiconductor, which is the chip company that made the 6502 CPU that's in the Commodore, made this as well. This is the 6551, which is a companion chip meant for the 6502, specifically to add a serial port. So it's super easy to integrate in. You pretty much just, you connect, 8 or 10 lines or so on the bus of the Commodore. It doesn't require any glue logic. It just plugs essentially straight onto the bus of the 6502, and all of a sudden the 6502 has a serial port. So that's sweet. It needs, the only support hardware that it needs is a little crystal oscillator, which is used to generate accurate timing, because serial is all about timing, right? So this is a little 1.8432 megahertz little CAN oscillator that's on here. And then really the only other thing is the ROM chip that actually has the software to boot the machine. And for development purposes, I put in one of these super sketchy little Chinese import ZIF, or zero insertion force sockets, so that I could burn new firmware onto this and very easily swap it out. And then this is just a little flash ROM chip. I did respond to you. In fact, I'm not Jewish, but there's some Jewish folks in my family, so mazel tov. So yeah, this is a little flash EEPROM replacement chip. This is an entire megabit. The cartridges for the 64 are only 8 or 16K, so this is kind of overkill, but it works. And it's very easy to burn with this little guy, which is another fun import EEPROM burner. So it's very easy to write code, flash it onto the chip. Well, I may do some more. I may do an entire stream dedicated to getting this guy working, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, so lots of wiring. Not all of it works. Have to work on that. So yeah. All right. So yeah. So let's drink some beer. So I've been talking for a while. I'm drinking a Firestone Luponic Distortion IPA, which is part of their Revolting Hop series. I'm not quite sure what to think about the fact that they call their own beer Revolting. So let's see. That is not revolting. That is quite delicious. Right. So, duly fortified. Let's do some wiring. Clicky, clicky. So let's see here. Where did I put that cord? Okay, yeah, here we go. So I guess what I'm going to do here is just kind of re-terminate this whole thing. I'll need to take off this heat shrink that I put on. I guess I'll just start by cutting this free. My little flush cutters here. Cut those little guys off. Might have to fidget with this slightly to get the response or the remainder of the wire off of here. And all this brass stuff is already starting to sort of patina very nicely, which I like a great deal. I got the biggest ones of these I could find as well. These are 1032 screw size and nut size. So, cool. All right, so now we've got our little brass guys there. And, I think I might actually move the camera up a little bit. Get a little bit more wide angle action on what we're doing. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Nice. Rotate that a little bit away from me. There we go. Sweet. Okay. Right. So I guess next let's get rid of this heat shrink here. I've moved around all of my stuff, so I don't know where any of my tools are. Do a little X-Acto knife action here. Doo-doo-doo. That's pretty good. Cut through that guy right there, trying not to go too deeply, which is super easy to do. Alright, so there's my crappy heat shrinking done. And the interesting thing about this cloth wrapped wire is you can actually move the cloth wrapping and sort of roll it up a little bit, although it's not moving at all. I guess it compressed it pretty well. Oh, there we go. So yeah, you can sort of, just slide it down the wire however you so like. So I'm going to cut off the bits. That was sharp. I'm going to cut off the bits here that have the insulation that I singed a little bit. And then we will just peel back. I'm going to move my head. Let's move my head. There we go. There, now I'm blocking a little bit less of what I'm doing. Let's see, how should we go about doing this? We're going to need a pretty goodly loop to go around. I'll strip more than I need. I have miles of this cord here, so it's kind of okay. And suddenly I notice my laptop isn't charging. That's annoying. There we go. That should be better. So we'll forego the usual strippers in this case and just go straight to the X-Acto blade, because I don't have any strippers that are conducive to removing this length of insulation. Doesn't quite work. Hello, stab myself in the crotch, good call. Let's see, did I get through it? Yep. Bit tricky. I might need to do this in pieces. Normally I'm a huge fan of my ratcheting wire strippers, but they will not remove this length of insulation. There we go. There's some nice copper. I won't pull that all the way through. Is there a way to unheat shrink heat shrink? I do not believe so. If you heat it up again, it will get kind of mushy and somewhat pliable. But I do not, at least to my knowledge, I do not know that there is a way to expand it back to where it was. I want to say that that is a kind of a one-time operation, but I may well be wrong. Usually it is cheap enough that it's rather okay to just cut it off and redo it, although in some cases that's kind of difficult. Okay, so we've got a, nice big great lump of stripped copper here. Probably far more than I need, but we'll cut off the excess. It's a little quiet. I think I might try to throw a little music on here. Let's see. I'm not monetizing this, so I think that means I can play anything I want, probably. But I'll stick to like video game BGM or something. Let's see. Let's play some... What do I want to hear? I'm just Googling for NES soundtrack. NES music, Batman soundtrack. Let's try that. I don't remember what that sounds like. Deploy the smooth jazz in 3, 2, 1. I know I said that other thing was my favorite joke in all of Portal, but I think smooth jazz might be my favorite joke in Portal too. Actually, I think all the jokes in Portal were my favorite jokes in Portal. And let me know if you can still hear me. I'll turn the mic toward myself. It should be fairly directional, but I'm not mixing it, I just have it coming out of my laptop. This is like the least Batman-y thing that I can imagine being the Batman soundtrack. It's good though. I presume I'm still somewhat audible with the Batmaning happening in the background. Ow. Give that a twist. Yep, it's good. Cool. I believe I need some pliers to assist in this process. Pliers, 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 pliers. Needle nose pliers. These will do. Your needly nose will assist me. Yeah, this is really stuck on there. There we go. Finally. Give that a little extra twist. Okay, so yeah, then the idea is pretty much just to kind of make a little loop of this stuff, wrap it around a couple times, and call it good. Although, I do kind of want to capture the end, so let me cut a little bit of heat shrinkage here. Going from my fries all-you-can-eat heat shrink buffet box, which I've already eaten all of the 3/16ths, but anyway, super useful. And this is just going to be capturing the end, so we'll cut just a small little niblet here. Again, using the diagonal cutters, or sorry, the flush cutters, best tool ever. Just check to see if this will go over. Yep, that will just barely go over the inner insulation there. Cool. Right, so, I guess we'll just kind of wrap this around and hope for the best. I don't want to leave too much exposed either. Maybe I should cut myself a slightly bigger piece of heat shrink just to account for that possibility. Nothing more annoying than wiring something up and then realizing you did not put the heat shrink on already. Super obnoxious. I wonder if I should start the loop on the inside or the outside, because that's important. Yeah, we'll do toward the outside. Alright, so we'll just take this around here, keeping it fairly taut. Actually, it's probably not going to matter much. It's probably going to go toward the center once I start twisting it anyway. And we will get this fairly tight, like so. And then just give it a little twisty-twisty. And paying careful attention to keep the wraps nice and somewhat neatish. Because I totally want this to look like some sort of handmade, like 1919 electrical thingy from Westinghouse or something. Just wrap that around. Actually is using up the majority of this. That's good. Yeah, so that's never going anywhere. It's on there pretty good. And then we'll just kind of loosen up a wrap here, cut off the remainder, twist it. Do I fix capacitors? I guess you mean do I replace capacitors in things? Capacitors aren't really fixable things, but yeah, I have replaced capacitors in a number of things, actually. Old computers, video game machines, that sort of thing. Yeah, I have done that. So now we can just kind of slide our little heat-shrunken niblet here. And yes, I've already stabbed myself slightly with the copper wire, because that always happens. Alright, so we'll just kind of slide this little sock. I think actually having the black background on my notebook is mica capacitors. I'm not particularly familiar with those, to be honest. So no, probably not then. Okay. What are mica capacitors for? Is that a like a guitar amplifier thing? Radio receivers, something like that? What are those going? Alright, so that looks pretty decent, I think. That's not too bad. So let's do number 2. Question is, where is the other little brass nut? Ah, here we are. And so we'll take this. I guess it would be key to get them lined up correctly. Oh. Slide on my little heat shrink here. And I'm going to heat shrink these all at once just because. Oops. That's just marginal. It just wants to fit over there. Whew, that's a bit tight. I'm actually worried about that. Not going back over. Come on. Mica capacitors are used in laptops and computers. Oh, okay. Yeah, probably not then. Let me get another little bit of heat shrink here, because this is either owing to the way I cut it or something. This is like really hard to get on there. Oh, I know why. Because this, so, dumb John moment. So most lamp cord, at least the stuff we use here in the States, and this is totally not going to show up, but one conductor is slightly ribbed, which is usually used to indicate the neutral line, which doesn't quite make sense to my brain. You would think you would use the indication to highlight the hot line, or the positive, but I guess not. But anyway, so that's what's making the heat shrink not fit. So just for a very short length here, I'm going to carve off with my X-Acto. Blade's a little loose. I am a software developer, Ham. I just happen to do a little bit of electronic fiddling on the side. How about yourself? What do you do for fun? Or for work, I guess. And also for fun. Alright. Whittled that off. That's better. Nope, didn't quite go far enough. Yeah. I'll just wedge it on there. That should work. Alright. Yes, I know I'm cutting toward myself, because I'm not very smart. Now you shall fit, darn you. Oh, don't worry, I have plenty of extra, you'll see. There we go. Alright. So now we want to make sure this is relatively lined up here. That seems pretty good. Make our little loopy-loo here. A little farther, probably. Give that a nice tight twist. I'm a big fan of soldering any kind of connection, much less something with line current going through it, but in this case, I think holding it mechanically will do just fine. Now, how did I do that? So somehow I managed to make it pretty not even, as you can see there. Oh well, let's untwist it, do it again. Haven't heat shrunk it yet, so it's fine. Heat shrunk, heat shrinked, heat shrinkified. I am coming to you from the Bay Area in California. In the United States of America, just to clarify. There we go. That looks good. Ah, Chicago. Good town. Haven't been personally, aside from the airport. And this time I made it too long. Man, I'm really bad at this. That's annoying. Alright, one more time. I can straighten this wire out. Alright, third time's the charm. Hopefully. Or I just suck. See if I got it right before I twisted a bunch. No. It must be when I twisted, it compresses down the turns that I have made to make my loop. Maybe that is the problem. There, that's pretty even now. Okay. Ah, it's tasty. It's warming up nicely, too. Alright, Ham, thanks for coming by. Enjoyed having you, and maybe see you next stream. Okay, so now we've got these sort of evenish. Pretty good, I think. And now we'll see if we can get the heat shrink over it. Come on. It's a touch bunched up at the end, which is usually the kiss of death. But I think I can get through it. I know I can. I think I can. If I smoosh it down, smoosh the wire down just a bit. Come on. There we go. That's moving. It's a little bunched, but it should straighten out once I shrink it. There we go. Ah, just a little bit more. Come on. Yeah, now you got it in you. There we go. Nice. There we go. Alright. So that looks almost like I know what the hell I'm doing. I kind of bunched up the heat shrink a little bit, but it'll do. Alright, so now we're going to shrink this, and I know the traditional way is to just use a lighter or something. At least the traditional shitty, kind of rednecky way that I usually do it. But I think this time we're going to use my hot air gun. My hot air rework, actually. It is a tool originally intended for doing rework of surface mount components. Completely tangled in a bunch of shit. So it's intended for doing soldering and repair of little surface mount things, but it is also stupidly handy for doing heat shrink. So we're just gonna turn this puppy on here. Get it up about, I don't know, 250 degrees, that sounds about right. Wait for it to hot up. This is does a hairdryer work for heat shrink? Yeah, absolutely. If you get a heat shrink, if you get a hairdryer on like blazing hot, that is plenty to shrink, at least the heat shrink that I've worked with. Also handy are just, heat guns that you can get at, craft shops, hobby shops, Home Depot, whatever. But a hairdryer does work, although, if you're doing that, you might as well just use like a lighter or something. That's handy too. So yeah, this is now making heatness, and I'll try and do this under the camera. Oh yeah, that takes all the little wrinklies right out of there. Do it on both sides here. don't know how well this shows up, but it is shrunkled very nicely. And just to prove that this is pretty freaking hot air, let's see, what's that book? Fahrenheit 451. Well, this is in Celsius, so let's go to like, I don't know, 350 or something. And got your standard issue paper towel right here, and that scorches real good. Oh wait, my head's in the way. Shit. Hang on. I got 2 layers there. Hang on. There we go. I promise this is cool. There you go. And if you turn it up a little higher or you leave it on there any longer, it will absolutely catch fire. So, you know, that's fun. So now that my apartment now smells like burning... Shit, almost touched myself with the hot part there. That was dumb. Well, my apartment smells like burning paper towel. Alright, cool. So now we have some fairly neat little wiry guys there. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to kind of slide this cloth jacket up a bit. Hey, actually, you know what? I'm going to turn this heat back on, because I want to see if instead of using the heat shrink, if I can just kind of use... Sorry, instead of using the heat shrink to keep the cloth in place, I wonder if I can just melt the end of it. If it's a synthetic, I wonder if I can melt it with the hot air. Let's see. Let's see what this does. This may fail miserably. Oh yeah, that works perfectly. That's like if you take a lighter to neon cord. Oh, that melts beautifully. Whew. Cool. Alright. So now that's hopefully terminated and maybe won't... Well, it can still move. Yeah. Well, it won't fray anymore. Wonder if you could write your name on creme brulee with a heat gun. I have no doubt. The only downside would be the nozzle is a little... I'm going to turn this off again. The nozzle's a little wide, so you'd need, like, a lot of creme brulee. But, I mean, I've never been in a situation where I've ever heard of too much creme brulee, so I think that's probably not a big deal. Alright, so now I'm just gonna fit these little knobby guys back on here. I realize that I have one of them twisted the wrong way, or at least a different way, not the wrong way. I will reattach these to their little binding posts, and I'm gonna see if now all we have is the cloth insulation. I'm going to see if that is enough, if that gives the cord enough flexibility to go under the glass dome. We'll see. I don't know. Alright, so that's on there. Notion to it. I mean, can I form? I guess if I form the cable a little bit, that could work. Let's see how well, because obviously I don't want to like crimp it and endanger the insulation any. But if I can form it enough that it fits, that might be okay. Let's see. Will you fit? Yeah. Well, sorta. Kinda. Let me give it a little bit of abusive force here. See if that'll snap it into place. Yeah, no, that doesn't quite feel right. Okay. How to do this then? I guess. Let's see. Okay, so I'm guessing if I chip out a little bit of the top of this base here. Okay. I think I have a plan. I don't know if it's a good plan, but I think I have a plan. The trouble with this wood is it's not a solid piece of wood. It's sort of laminated with some shit, which makes filing it and chiseling it sort of tricky, but we're gonna try to do the thing. Alright. Move the cord out of the way, and we're gonna get... I picked up some crappy Harbor Freight, or Horrible Freight, as I like to call them, files. Let's see, do I have the one that I need here? Oh, here they are, I think. Yeah. Let's get Filey McFilerson out here. I have a straight one out that I was using. Yes, I did. Actually, we'll use this little chisel one here. What's this project supposed to be in the end? Oh, yeah, so, literally, it's just a little blinky thing. Did you, see it run? I can, plug it in again, once I get done, but, no, so these, this is just a little, randomly oscillating neon display piece thingy, toy. I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but it just randomly blinks. It uses these little neons to make a sort of random oscillator, and they just blink, and, you know, good times are had. That's really about the extent of it. I guess I can move the camera down so I can get a wee bit closer. There we go. Yeah, so let's see. Probably would have been easier to do if I had done this chiseling before putting the wires in it, but oh well. I'm just going to try and go straight down and make a little extra channel here. Yeah, that's the trouble with this thing. It chips horribly. I have to try and control that. Let me get my little tiny hammer here. Where are you, tiny hammer? There you are. Do the corners here as well. Ooh, that gouged out a bit more than I wanted. Damn the man. I am the man. Crap. I may have to do a little bit of painting to touch up some of the bits that I have gouged out. It's not good. Ugh, I truly wish that this was solid wood. This would be so much easier to work with. Instead, it's like this weirdly laminated. If you have putty or something, yeah, putty may have to be employed. Alright, we're kind of getting there. I mean, if nothing else, when I color in this part that I've chopped out, when I color it in black, it'll look significantly better to the eye, since it won't just be a pine-colored hole, or whatever crap wood they made this out of. let's see if we've helped the situation any. Let's get our cord here. Run that in like so. Oh yeah, that seems to give it a bit more freeboard. Let's get our little glass dome here. Hey! Neat. That closes right on there. Sweet. There it is. Is that on there? Yeah. That's on there quite well. I haven't decided. I may actually just glue the whole thing shut at some point, just to keep it from, you know, dropping and popping open. But yeah, so that's what we just did. We just carved out a little bit of thingy here. And while I could go in and paint this, I am going to see if I can cheat. Oh, of course, now I have to get it back open again. Where's my... I don't want to use my putty knife. That might explodify it. Or at least scratch it. Oh, that's on there quite well. Maybe I won't have to glue it shut. Neat. Okay, putty knife. Gently. Very gently. Not so gently. There. I gouged it a bit. That's okay. Oh, gouged quite a bit. Shit. Okay, breaking it. Yeah, so I'm going to try. The rest of this is lacquered, but I am going to try touching up a few of my more egregious faults with a bit of Sharpie. See how that works. I covered that up quite well. Not sure how well this will work. Well, let's see. If you have nothing else, it'll make a good base coat for actually putting more lacquer on it. Yeah. Well, I don't know. That works actually kind of well. I've been watching a lot of Adam Savage's podcasts, and he is one of his common expressions that he uses in prop and model making is that you can actually afford to cheat and do things that are not perfect as long as you hide the crimes later. And by hide the crimes, he means using, you know, everything from paint techniques, you know, visual techniques of scale and subterfuge, you know, things that look wrong close up but look perfectly fine from 5 feet away, so that, you know, everything doesn't have to be absolutely perfect when it comes out of your shop, which is kind of that's a really interesting approach. And considering his history of model making, prop making and such for ILM and other places, I've been taking a lot of inspiration from that lately. I'm not gonna lie, this actually looks pretty good, but it's not great. I'm not in love with it. Just because it's such a rough surface, it kind of looks shitty because of that. I don't know how much crime hiding we can do. Maybe if I can straighten out this edge a little bit more. If you've already fucked up, keep digging. You know, well, let's see, if I can just break this edge a little bit and not go all the way through, that might help significantly. I'm also trying to learn what angles I can do things that they're actually visible on camera. Okay, that's passable. Straighten that out a bit anyhow. Oop. Little chunk fell out. Kind of dreading having to go in and try and re-lacquer this, because I'd have to, you know, obviously cover up all the glass and metal bits, because I don't want those lacquered. this isn't bad. This is not bad. Basically what I'm going to do is kind of do it this way with the Sharpie and set it aside for a couple of days, and if it bothers me when I look at it again in a couple of days, then I'll fill it or something. But the good thing is that the electrical cord is actually in the way of the majority of what has been cut out, so you can't, again, hiding crime, so you can't really see it that well. Cool, so let's get this back on here. Screwing our little guys back on here. For some reason, these little brass thumb screws really sell, at least to me, they really sell the whole, like, turn-of-the-century dangerous electrical appliance look of this thing, because, I mean, interestingly enough, a lot of appliances that you bought at the turn of the century, like toasters or waffle irons or whatever, they actually had these. They didn't have plugs. They just had terminals that you screwed something to, which was kind of terrifying. Even this out a little bit. Okay. So yeah, here's where we are. Like that. Those are on there. And the cable does tuck rather nicely into here, and the dome goes on. It goes kind of click. I might actually epoxy the cord into this little slot here, maybe. I don't know. It's held rather well. I don't think you could pull it out or strain it to any degree. Yeah, so again, just to demonstrate what this thing does, I'm going to go and plug it in now that it's electrically isolated. Just looking again to make sure that I haven't done anything stupid, like left a wire across it or something. I don't believe I have. So we plug it in. There we go. And I'm really kind of curious how this would come out on video, because on the preview I just see very slow blinks, but in real life the blinking is very rapid and very twitchy. And the light's on in here, so you can't really see a lot of activity, but if I go and let's turn off the overhead light here. Kind of interesting. What's interesting is it's also very photosensitive. So even if I turn my laptop away, it slightly changes how active it is. If I turn it in relation to the open window, the lights that are toward the window blink more. In fact, let's do that. Let's turn the light back on first. I'll kill myself. Let's we'll take the computer camera, and then we'll take the device. Is there enough cord? Just enough cord. And we'll sit it here in the window. And you know what? I think I'll use the bench camera instead, so I can get that closer if I unplug it. It's going to be a little angly because the little miniature tripod has to find some purchase, but anyway. So that's it right there. And then if I turn the lights off, and it does change in activity over time. It favors different sides or different bulbs. Every now and again, the randomness will all line up, and it will just whoosh around in a circle, which is really weird. It's a strange little chaotic little device. Now it's also interesting, actually, if I go Let me go get a flashlight really quick, because this is sort of fun. I'm not sure how visible this is going to end up being, but if I take a Maglite flashlight here, any source of light will do, you can actually turn on, it's probably going to be really impossible to see, but previously this bulb, the bulb that was blinking is the one to the left of the one that's currently blinking. You can actually, this is that memory effect I was talking about, you can actually shift which one likes to blink more. See, that one's not wanting to blink as much now, and it's tricky and weird. You have to kind of turn the flashlight to brighter. Come on, you can do it. Well, anyway, it doesn't really perform on command, but you can actually see the bulbs under the flashlight illuminating, and then when you take it away, the ones that you illuminated tend to be the ones that more commonly blink, although right now this one little guy right here seems to be pretty happy with blinking. So yeah, this is a weird little doodad. And see, now that the overhead is on, now just there's those two bulbs up at the top are solidly on, and this one here down at the bottom is like, I don't know if I wanna. And it's most active when there's a bit of light, but not complete darkness. It's an very odd little guy. I'll just leave it right here for now. I will plug it in on the other side of the room so I don't have the cable going across, so I don't trip and die. Yeah, here we go. I'll put it a little bit further over here, the cat in his wisdom does not jump into it. Yeah. So that's that little thing. I have quite a few, well, I say quite a few, I have some of the bulbs left. How many do I have left? Let's see. Let me find the little, where's the little bag of them now? Of course I'm looking for them and I can't find them. Here they are. I have a couple, probably 10 or so, not so many, but just ordered these from some random stall in Shenzhen. It's interesting, they actually almost reflect a little green in the light of the monitor. It's a little strange. And I have plenty of wire and capacitors and bits, so I actually have enough bits to build another one. Yeah, so that's a neat little thing. There it is, just kind of doing its thing, trying to look all kind of, I don't know, not steampunk, maybe diesel punk is the appropriate terminology. So that's neat. So yeah, I wonder what to do next. I guess, what do I feel like doing? It is 9 o'clock. Let's see. Do I want to try getting this Commodore cartridge to work again? That's an interesting question. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Let's see. Now watch, I plug it in and it'll be working this time. That would be intensely annoying. Also, apparently, Batman has an incredibly long soundtrack, because this has been going for forever. Oh my god. So let's put camera 2 on the Commodore here. So here's the cart with the firmware that was totally working, I swear, damn it. Move the camera a little bit. just goes into yonder cartridge slot on the back of the machine. And I have to go find the power supply for this because I was using it for something else. I will be right back. Okay. Right. So I unplugged the monitor, which was not good. I unplugged that to plug in the blinky thing. And we'll plug in my hand-built, not say hand-built, but hand-hacked C64 power supply that I had to put together because the original ones are unbelievably unreliable and crappy. They have a joyous history of exploding and killing your computer. Take that, try and not get it entangled. And what's supposed to happen when you put in this cartridge and turn it on, what it is supposed to do is clear the screen of the Commodore to blue, turn the border to blue as well so you have an entire blue screen, and print the words Blue Key 64 and start doing some sort of debugging stuff. Unfortunately, what it does do, right now it's doing nothing because the power supply's off, and turn that on. Unfortunately, what it is doing is just popping up to the standard. Well, holy shit, it worked. Yeah. So it's working now. That's weird. Okay, well, apparently whatever was transiently wrong with it is transiently right at the moment because that's what it's supposed to be doing. Well, shit. Okay. Well, that's fun. Really, so the fact that this works is good. I mean, I'm happy that it's working right now, but, whoa, okay. That's weird. Oh, I think I actually ESD'd it, because my hand was near the, CRT, which is probably a little close to this bare circuit board for comfort. I think I actually staticked it out and made it reset. That's weird. Yeah, so obviously I want to do a little more than this sort of hand hacked out prototype, so I do want to make a PCB for this. I've never done PCB layout or design, that's two separate things. And I want to do that. I somewhat concurrently found a really, really nice model on Thingiverse, for a cartridge shell. So a couple of months ago when I started working on this thing, I had somebody print both halves. I sawed this half in half to try and make room for the ZIF socket, but it didn't work anyway. So, just imagine that there's a hole, not a giant hole cut out of there. But this came out so good, and this wasn't even printed in like super good quality. Like if I switch over to, let me angle Mr. Bench camera over a little bit here. This thing came out incredibly well. It's even got a little screw stud, the idea being that this goes through a hole in the PCB of the cart and then into a matching little boss on the other side and clamps it all together. Although since I was really short on room, I ended up putting components under that hole, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. But, I mean, I had this thing printed for $12 bucks or something, and it just, I mean, it's so nice. So I'm definitely thinking of having another one of these done, possibly a little bit bigger. I may have to make the PCB a little bigger in order to fit all the bits. Yeah, so, well, now that that works, I guess I was wanting to get this fixed so that I could get back to working on the firmware for it, and sitting watching somebody code isn't strictly exciting, so I'm probably not going to do that. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, shoot. What could I work on? I guess I could, I mean, I could actually try making another one of those little neon things, or I could call it a night. I know it's like midnight East Coast time. So what do you think? Could use up these existing little neons and make another little blinky thing, or call it off. We've already had a pretty good success with blinky thing number 1 over there. It's just kind of sitting there blinking, which is pretty sweet. Think amongst yourself, and I will drink beer. Oh, that's good. Oh, and while you're thinking, I'm going to put the lab into party mode. That's actually a thing. I could talk about these things. So, okay. Well, this will be a nice little aperitif then, because this will only be a few minutes. So, you know, you can see my apartment now is currently, you know, very apartmenty. It looks as many apartments do. In fact, mine is actually rather empty since I don't have a tremendous amount of stuff in it right now. But with a simple pull of a cable, I can transition into party mode. Actually, turn the white lights off. There we go. Is this not the best thing ever? Okay, so, and yeah, this is just the most. If I switch over to this, I'll use this for a hands-free. Come on, cable. Yeah, so, like, there's party on the floor. There's party on the walls. There's party, like, in the kitchen. There's party going out the window. Like, there's so much party, like, everywhere. Even into the other room. The cat, there's party on the cat. I mean, seriously, like, you can't really see, but that's the cat illuminated by the party. It is just the most stupidly ridiculous thing. And so the story behind this, let's have a look at one of these, because these are pretty fucking great, I gotta say. So once again, I have to thank Big Clive, youtube.com/Big Clive, for these, because the main part of his channel, aside from reviewing or building like cool little electronics projects, is he buys weird stuff from eBay sellers from China. And there's so much cool stuff that you can get that just does not, for various reasons of safety or good sense, that just doesn't make it across to the States. And this is one of them. So this is what was described on the packaging as a 3-watt multicolor dancing bulb. So what we have here is just a plastic bulb shell. This is all, you know, cast in some sort of smooshy, cheapish plastic. This screws into any regular little light bulb holder, but it's got this kind of multifaceted dingus on the front of it. And it screws in at the top. And what's nuts about it is, so it spins. There's actually a motor in here that when this is running, it spins around. And, in fact, what's kind of funny, due to the crappy way that this is, well, not necessarily crappy, but somewhat strange, the way that this is wired, the motor is in series with some of the LEDs, so when you spin it, it actually lights up a little bit. When you spin it one way, the red and green lights turn on, and when you spin it the other way, the blue light turns on. And I know I'm completely swamping the camera, and I don't care, it's hilarious. Yeah, for just the way the phases are rigged up. Well, not phases, but directions. The blue light must be wired in the other direction from the red and the green. So, and what's hilarious about these? So these were, I got 2 of these. I actually ordered them at the same time that I got these neons, but it took like a month and a half for them to show up because I guess they put them on the really slow boat. Sorry, just moving things out of the way and getting the bench cam set back up. These things were less than $3 shipped, which is insane. I want to say they were... Okay, and the bench camera has died. What has happened? Oh, I accidentally clicked on one of the stupid ads in the webcam program. Okay, it's back. So yeah, these things, I want to say they were like $2.87 a piece shipped. So for under $6, I got 2 of these things, and they actually make better ones. Like this is the 3-color. I'm amazed that I can actually just spin it in my hand and use that as a generator and bring the party with me wherever I am. But yeah, less than $6, and you can make your apartment into a ridiculous, bedazzled, trippy clusterfuck. It's amazing. And the way these are built, I mean, it's fairly ingenious. Like if I get, there's just a little single screw here on the top. It makes a little bit of a... Like, if I turn it by hand, you can... Well, I guess I could do it by the mic. Like, it makes a little bit of a noise, but since it turns so much slower and when it's actually attached, it's barely detectable. And honestly, you know, in exchange for the sheer amount of party that this slings all over the walls, a little bit of a whir is totally acceptable. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a properly sized Phillips... screwdriver here to take with which to take this apart. There we go. So yeah, we take this one little screw out. I mean, so very much party. It's unbelievable. Yeah, so that screw comes out, and then this little faceted globy thing just falls off, and there's a little metal shaft here. And coming through there, there's just this little. It's not even a printed circuit board. It's a little chunk of aluminum, steel, something, pot metal, like some kind of metal, to which the LEDs are attached. I guess it must be a circuit board of some fashion, but I've never seen a metal substrate circuit board. But I suppose it exists. Anyway, so this little shaft comes through, and that's what's attached to the motor. The 3 little LEDs are here. So then if we take these little screws out, fair amount of spring tension on this. I'm somewhat worried about it exploding, but hey, we'll figure it out when that happens. Keep it out like so. And I have 2 of these, so don't worry about the possibility of party interruption, because party can always continue. So yeah, a little metal PCB, and then I'm guessing I should have popped this little thing out first. Okay, so there's this second little chunk of plastic that's held in by some little spring tabs. So we'll get a get a little. Hang on, I have a little small flat screwdriver here somewhere, if I can find it. Never should have moved my tools around. Now I cannot find a thing. Try our fin with the putty knife, see if that will work. How can I attack you? Okay. I'll just go here. Will that work? Yeah, there we go. Yahtzee. So yeah. Okay, I've taken the entire thing apart. Yeah. So that. So we have this little metal base plate through which the LEDs are attached. I presume that helps with cooling as well. And then there's this little geared motor, which the gearing is, I presume, the source of the noise. It's slowing the motor down. It actually says Dong X Ingwei or Dongxingwei motor. It's probably not going to show up on camera, but there's actually branding embossed into this gearbox, which is kind of amazing for this sort of thing. So yeah, the motor goes through, and then wrapped up in plastic, that yellow plastic that is coming off, frankly, is a little... So there's a little chip and a little capacitor and a little transformer. That's actually a little switch mode power supply, which is actually surprisingly involved for something of this nature. I would have expected something a little shittier. Yeah, there's, if I really get up in there, and this is really small. Like that little board is thumb sized, if that. But there's a little transformer and a little and move in reverse, little piece of tape, little cap right there, and then there's a teeny. If I can tilt it enough, get that light in there. There's a. That's just going to blare the whole thing out. There's a teeny little. You can just see that little chip right in the back. That is going to be some manner of switch mode power supply driver. And what's funny about that? So I'm going to try and actually put this back together now. What's interesting about that is the first thing I was thinking is, okay, yes, the amount of party being generated by this is incredible. However, wouldn't it be cool, owing to some of my, previous electrical doodlings, wouldn't it be cool if this had controllable RGB LEDs instead of the little fixed ones? Moreover, a lot of the addressable LEDs that you can get, they actually put a white chip in there as well. So there's a red, a green, and a blue, and a pure, either cool or warm white, like differing color temperature, LED in there, which would give you like just a straight up disco ball effect. And then going even further, what if you could control the speed of this motor from like frantic, trippy, bad acid mode? Did it freeze? Is everything freezing? Can you not hear me at all? Hello? I'm asking YouTube if the stream is froze. YouTube says stream health is good. Well, it's back. Okay, good. Good. So yeah, wouldn't it be cool if you had adjustable red, green, blue, white LEDs on this? And furthermore, what if you had control of the speed of the motor, such that you can go from like spaz out bad acid mode to like slow, introspective, what am I doing with my life mode? And then, even cooler, what if you had like wireless control over this? So now what I'm thinking, once I, finish up the Commodore thing and finish up a bunch of other things, now I'm thinking not replacing, but augmenting the guts of this thing for like wirelessly controlled, controllable spin RGB craziness. And the fact that it has that little switch mode power supply in it, that's just like one less part that I have to buy. Essentially, that would end up being, what you'd need. You'd need some kind of little controller, whether that would be a little Arduino or one of Adafruit's trinkets or something, or really anything, as long as it was small. One of their motor controller boards, which are also small and very cheap. And probably this exact same little Bluetooth low energy module that I'm using on the Commodore thing, because pretty much every phone made the past couple of years can talk to this. now, so that's a little easier to work with than something like Zigbee or any of the other weirder like home control protocols. So that, hacking up this little thing might turn into a different project of its own. So, just to demonstrate that we did not kill the party, we're going to reinstall this back in its rightful place. So yeah, I'll if I can find it, there's so many sellers and they kind of come and go, but I'll see if I can tweet out a search string so that you can find these, so that you can take your dull, ordinary life and make it into that. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm thinking I might leave the stream there. Shit, I may just stream blinky lights for a couple of minutes to let it go. But yeah, this was really fun. I appreciate you coming by and hanging out. So, and hey, now my cat finally decides to get in on the action. Do you want to see the light party, kids? Do you want to see the light party, kitty boy? My cat just like stares up at the ceiling at this thing. He's very confused by this. So he's like swatting. Oh my god, he's like swatting at the little light dots. Oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Oh, this is so good. This is awesome. He's like, so I have this clear IKEA chair, and he's like trying to swat at the little dots of light that are being projected on it. This is fantastic. The switch cameras. We'll make this the crazy. Oh god! Now he's attacking my arm. Okay, that worked. Not so good. Oh my god! This throws my cat into a murderous rage. Hey, buddy. Hey, kitty. I know. What's going on? This is so strange. Yeah. All right. Oh god, they're on camera. Cat killed it. All right. Well, I think I'm going to probably cut the streamage there. And this was pretty fun. I think I might do this. I don't know if Saturday is a good time. Sundays when I want to do it. I don't know. Haven't decided, but it's kind of fun. Kind of enjoy this. This is a little bit more fun than just making a static video. So, all right. I'm just gonna leave the stream going muted for a little while, just for. So that we end on the party time. So, anyway, had a good time. Thanks for coming by. Latest.